Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Grandstand Sports Data, your go to channel for sports, stats, and unbiased handicapping. Today, we have something really special in store for you for this video. You've heard the debates and seen the comparisons, but have you ever wondered who truly deserves the title of the greatest NBA team of all time? Well, today we have an exciting twist as we put our cutting edge AI technology to the test. In our last episode, we had who was the greatest player of all time, but today we'll be finding out who will be the best basketball team of all time. We're going to dive into the world of basketball statistics and make an unbiased selection. So brace yourselves for an epic showdown as we analyze the stats, the achievements, and impact of some of the greatest NBA teams ever. So buckle up and join us as ChatGPT dives into the numbers, the records, and the legacy to crown the ultimate basketball team. Get ready for a thrilling ride as we determine the best NBA team of all time right here on Grandstand Sports Data. So first, we're going to start with qualifiers, and the only requirement from us at Grandstand Sports Data was an NBA championship. So we believe to be considered the best team of all time, you have to have had won an NBA title for that given year. So sorry 2016 Golden State Warriors, you would miss the cut for this specific video. Next, we asked ChatGPT to show us the criteria for finding out who the best NBA team of all time would be. And this is the criteria that it gave us. So to find the best team of all time, first you will have to break up the success into two categories: regular season performance and playoff performance. Playoff performance should have a significantly higher weight than the regular season based on the strength of competition and the importance of each game. Since ChatGPT didn't give us a specific value, we at Grandstand Sports Data took it upon ourselves to weigh the playoffs twice as much as the regular season. Next, ChatGPT wanted us to factor in the strength of schedule and the margin of victory. So us at Grandstand Sports Data again took it upon ourselves to take those two factors and put it into one number, which would be Basketball References SRS rating. And that's just a simple rating system. And this is a team rating that takes into account the average point differential and the strength of schedule throughout the year. Next, ChatGPT indicated that evaluating both offensive and defensive statistics would be crucial in determining who is the most dominant of all time. We felt that net rating, both in the regular season and postseason, would be a great measurement when comparing teams both past and present. Finally, ChatGPT concluded with its criteria with individual performances and accolades. It suggested tallying if the team had the MVP winner in that season, how many All-Stars they had, and how many players made All-NBA. All these accolades represent dominance in that season. We at Grandstand Sports Data also added individual performance measurements like player efficiency rating, which is represented by per, win shares, and then win shares per 48 to determine how talented teams were or how dominant these teams were. Since all the criteria is in place, let's look at how we constructed the formula. So as you can see from the very top in red, you'll see 33% of the total. So just think of it like a pie chart, and we broke it down into 67% would be based on playoff performance, where 33% would be regular season performance. And then out of the 33%, you're going to see SRS be 33% of the 33%. So within the 33% in this final pie, 33% of that 33% is based on regular season SRS. Then 33% of that would be net rating, and that's a regular season net rating. 17% would be win percentage in the regular season. And then the rest would be individual accolades. And that would make up 17%. So all of these make up 100% of the 33%. Next, on the other side, we're going to see playoff performance. There is no SRS for playoffs. There is no MVP of the playoffs. There is obviously an NBA Finals MVP, but that usually happens to teams that have won it all, and they would be in this regardless. So we just remove that. There's no All NBA team in the postseason. There's no All Star game for the postseason. And finally, we took out win shares because the team who wins it all come close to the same win share percentage. The stats that we did include for the postseason would be net rating, win percentage, and then player efficiency rating. So how well a certain player did above the average. It's almost like a WAR if you follow baseball. And then a win shares per 48. So how well an individual played on a game-to-game basis. And then this part of the 67% is 100. So 100% of this makes up the 67% of the final pie. So I hope we did a good job at kind of giving you the illustration, pointing out the illustration and showing you what you will see. So let's move on. So let's move on to the honorable mentions. The honorable mentions here, you will see number 12 would be the 2008 Boston Celtics. And I would first start off with saying that I would call this the most dominant teams in NBA history based on Chat-GPT. Not necessarily the best team or a team that works together. I would say the most dominant team. So here you see 12th, 2008 Boston Celtics. You'll see 11th, the 72 Lakers. And 10th will be the 2015 Golden State Warriors. 9th will be the 97 Bulls. 8th would be the 67 76ers. 7th we'll have the 87 Lakers, and then in 6th you'll have the 92 Bulls. Now, I will say going forward, this is not necessarily a spoiler alert, but us at Grandstand Sports Data don't necessarily agree with all of these rankings. So I know in the last one we had the greatest basketball player of all time, and it turned out to be Michael Jordan. And of course, people took their pants off and started going crazy over that. This is not our personal selection. It's a criteria that we had with ChatGPT. So you're probably going to see teams up in the top that I wouldn't say not normally see, but maybe that you don't agree with. I will be the first one to tell you I don't agree with who's number one on this list, but ChatGPT gave us the formula, and that's what we did. So let's enjoy. So coming in at number 5 is the 1986 Boston Celtics. And we're just going to show you what has been broken down in this. So up here in the top left, you're going to see basically playoff performance. And out of the playoff performers, we do top 10. So these guys, you're going to see Larry Bird, 0.263. If you don't know what that is, that's Larry Bird's win share per 48 in the playoffs. For you to crack this list up here of these top 4 guys, you had to be in the top 10 in the NBA playoffs that year for you to make this list. And out of the top 10, they had Bird, McHale, Ainge, and Walton. To the right side, you're going to see MVP. Larry Bird was the MVP for that season. Now, after you see that, in our analysis, you're going to see MVP down here in the regular season. And it's ranked 9th. What we did was we took the win share that Larry Bird had throughout the season, the 0.244, and we found it down here and logged it in, and then we compared all the teams and ranked them, and he had the 9th best performance out of all NBA champions. So that's how we went about that. Their win percentage down here was their win percentage throughout the season. Their net rating, that's self-explanatory. Their offensive rating, their offensive rating minus their defensive rating. You're going to see how many all NBAs, which was Larry Bird, and you'll see that here represented. Larry Bird was the only player to make an all NBA selection that season. They had 3 All-Stars, which you will see right here. Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. And then the player efficiency rating would be, what we did was we took the top 20 in the regular season and just added it. And then out of the teams that were ranked, they came in 10th. We did the same thing for win shares, same as a player efficiency rating. So took the guys who were in the top 20. So if it was only one Celtic that came in the top 20 and he had a win share of 26.8, which isn't what happened, but just to give you an example, that's what we went with. And then the same thing for the win shares per 48. We took the players that were in the top. So if there was 5 Celtics or there was 1 Celtic, we just took that and added it up. And then we ranked them based on all the NBA champions of all time. Then in the playoffs, we went along the same lines when it came to player efficiency rating and win shares per 48. After we did that, after we did all these calculations, we came out with a score, which was basically who had the lowest rank. That made you the best, basically the best team. They had a 9.6, and that finished 5th. So I hope we're explaining this as good as we can. But just for the first team, we just wanted to go through the layout. Coming in at number 4 is your 1991 Chicago Bulls. As you can see from the champions, in that season, who were the best performers? It was Michael Jordan, of course, with a .333, and then Scottie Pippen with a .197. For MVP, you had Michael Jordan at a .321, and that was the second best performance ever in a regular season, according to win shares per 48. He was also made an All-NBA team in that season, and then he was also the lone All-Star on this team. So a little bit of a side note, when it came to the early NBA championships, Scottie Pippen was really finding himself. I know a lot of people will say that Michael Jordan had a lot of help when it came to Scottie. Not so much early on. So not so much early on. So those are those people who will tell you, like, people who have never seen Michael Jordan always have their own opinion. I watched Michael Jordan. I was a little young for the 91 team, but those 93, 94s, I was really getting my bearings. I was really understanding the sport. And that's when Pippen was really firing on all cylinders, I guess is how I will say it. Throughout the regular season, and here's another thing that I failed to mention in the last slide with the Boston Celtics, this is the portion that factors in this 33%, like we said in the beginning in the criteria, and then this is the 67%. As you can see from Chicago, they were the 10th best team in terms of simple rating system. They were 9th in terms of net rating, not 12th in terms of win percentage, and then with the MVP, he had a win share of .321, so that was second all time. As you can see from win shares, they were top 5, and that would factor in, I believe, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And then the win shares per 48 cracking the top 10. In the playoffs, they were unbelievable. They were winning at an 88% rate. The player efficiency rating was the second best in terms of, I want to say, was Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And then their win shares per 48 got them to 4th all time. And as you can see, I believe the Celtics in the last slide was 9.6. Chicago came in at averaging basically an 8th rank. So that would leave them 4th on our list. Coming in at number 3 is the 96 Chicago Bulls. So the 96 Chicago Bulls this was the second best team of all time when it came to the simple rating system. But if you look at net rating, they were number 1. If you look at win percentage, they were number 1. If you looked at the MVP, they were 3rd, which is this is third best performance of all time. In terms of regular season success, they had 2 All NBAs, which was Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. They had 2 All-Stars who were the same. And then they also had great playoff performances by Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, even though both of them did dip a little bit, but that's because of playoff. You're playing a great team night in, night out. This team did have the best win shares per 48. in the regular season of all time, almost cracking a 1. Um, very great. This was one of my favorite basketball teams personally, especially when they added Dennis Rodman. That was a little bit. I want to say that was a little bit earlier. It might have been that year. Don't really remember. You got to cut me some slack. Almost 30 years ago. But a great team nonetheless. They were fifth in terms of their win percentage. This is probably what hurt them the most was their player efficiency rating, somewhat, but mostly their win percentage in the playoffs. 83% is nothing to laugh at, but it was fifth in terms of all the teams that have won an NBA title. Also, on a side note, some people are going to argue and say, "Hey, you know what? Why does a team that wins a title only qualify to be the best team of all time?" Well, I think you answered your own question, dummy. I mean, you wouldn't really pick a team to be the best of all time if they didn't accomplish the one goal that you set out for in the beginning of the season. I mean, that would be a joke. So, um, nonetheless, this team I think was hurt in this calculation based on their playoff performance. Their playoff ratings went 4, 5, 10, and 7, while their regular season was like almost flawless. So they were really hurt by that, the calculations of basically the playoff performance doubling the regular season. But I also have to think that that's fair. It really is. Playoff performance should count way more than regular season performance, and especially now in today's NBA where teams are sitting guys out on the regular. It has to account more. Just has to. Coming in at number two, 1971 Milwaukee Bucks. This team was kind of loaded. As you can see from their simple rating system, they're number one of all time. Their net rating was sixth. Win percentage was 11th, which could have been better in terms of, the team that they had. But look at their MVP. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the time was Lou Alcindor. .326 was the best performance of all time in the regular season, as you can see, number one. They had two All-NBA players on their team. They had Oscar Robertson and Kareem, as mentioned. They had two All-Stars, which were the same. And their player efficiency rating for both of those guys cracked the top 10 as well. Their win shares, 34.7, which was seventh out of all teams that won the title. And their win shares per 48, where it looked like this was a team that, you know, took their foot off the gas a little bit in the regular season. Kind of more of a team of this generation. Took their foot off the gas a little bit, but then turned it up come playoff time. As you can see from playoff time, net rating second, win percentage third best ever, player efficiency rating fifth best, and then of course win share per 48. Number one. Look at all the guys they have up here. Kareem was up there. Oscar Robertson with a .213. He upped his game in the playoffs. Greg Smith was a .184. McLaughlin was a .174. And I'm sure most of these guys, and Bob Dandridge, but I think that was earlier in his career. You may know these guys. I don't as much. I mean, I was born in 87. I don't know them barely at all, just from relatives speaking on them. But this was a dominant basketball team. And you can see second best of all time with a 5.6 in terms of their average rank out of all of these. A great basketball team. I mean, there's nothing really you can say about that, and nothing more you can say about that. They cracked the top five in every statistical category come playoff time. They kind of let their foot off the gas in the regular season. This was already mentioned, but it needs to be, I think, said again because they were more of a, I don't want to say a modern team. There was no 3-point line and all that, but in terms of how they approached the regular season, you can see they still beat teams. They still did a great. I mean, with the SRS, they played a tough schedule. They smoked teams, but you could tell just from their win percentage, they didn't win all their games. Went to the playoffs and just stepped it up a notch. They knew that they were the best. And finally, coming in at number one, and like I said, I don't really necessarily agree with this, but this is not going to lie in terms of the criteria. The Golden State Warriors in 2017. As you can see, simple rating system had them fourth with an 11.35. Their net rating was third all time at 11.6, and their win percentage was about 81.7%, so they were seventh. They did not have an MVP, which tied them for 12th. After tying them for 12th meant that almost all NBA champion from 12 on did not have an MVP. Steph being probably I would have said Steph would have been the front runner, but it looks like Durant had a bit of a better year that season. They had 3 All NBA players. That helps in having the most dominant team. Having 4 All Stars helps having one of the most dominant teams. They've ranked 1 in both of those categories. Player efficiency rating for having 3 All NBAs and 4 All Star guys being 6th. It's not really the best, so it kind of showing you that they kind of, they took their foot off their gas for that one too, as well, in the regular season. I don't think it's possible to just go balls to the wall for a full 82 and then go into the playoffs and expecting the same. You're going to see teams that have to take their foot off the gas in the regular season in order to gear up for the playoffs. You can see from their win shares, 24.6 being 12th, and then 0.507 in terms of their win share per 48 being 12th. So the regular season stats not really lining up. Looking at their All NBA guys, you had Durant at a .278, so there was nothing to sneeze at. I mean, pretty good season there. Steph with a .229, and then Draymond .160. That's right. Klay Thompson did not make the All NBA that season. He did, however, make the All Star game, which he was a .129, which wasn't his best season, but the season before that he really did well. And it's almost like some guys make All Star games based on their previous season. As you can see from the playoffs, though, 2 guys took over: Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, with a .280 and a .272. Both of them stepping up their game from the regular season, which was crazy. Net rating #1 of all time. Their win percentage, they were 94.1% in the playoffs. They were smoking teams. They were lacing them. #1 in terms of that statistic. #1 in terms of player efficiency rating. And then #5 with win shares per 48, with those 2 guys up there being 5th. And as you can see from their score was a 5, which landed them #1. So, like I said, I personally don't agree. Don't agree. And this for a number of reasons. I think that the numbers will tell you that this team was the most dominant of all time. Some may disagree, some may agree with that. I think it's leaving out the story, which we all know, is that this was an all-world team before they added Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant was a snake and jumped onto one of the best teams and kind of put him in that conversation of being a great basketball player. Which don't get me wrong, I still think Kevin Durant is a great basketball player. Is he an alpha? Because that word gets thrown around when it comes to today's NBA. Is he an alpha? The answer is, if you have to do this to get your rings, buddy, you are not an alpha. When you jump on a team who had 72, 73 wins already, you're not an alpha. You're not. It's that simple. And that's what I think this team should be the most dominant. When you add, I believe at that time, Durant, in terms of win shares per 48, was like the second best player, not of all time, but of active players. So a team that won 73 games in the regular season adds the second best player in the NBA. And like people are going nuts over this. They should be this team. They should be the most dominant. I mean, it'd be a sad excuse if they weren't. So leave your comments in the comment section below. Good, bad, or indifferent. We've seen a few from the last video, and we appreciate all of them, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. We really like this series, and we're gonna keep keeping up with it. Also, we're gonna start adding more sports to it. We're going to do probably best quarterbacks of all time, best NFL teams of all time. Also, if you just stick here at Grandstand Sports Data for our basketball coverage, we're going to have our free agent show pretty soon. That should be coming up towards the end of the month. We'll also be kicking off some NFL videos, some preseason videos, going through our schedule. So we're going to go week by week through a schedule and make a video for that, based on our model and who they think the projected playoff teams will be, the Super Bowl winner, and yada yada yada. So hope you guys are psyched for that. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend, do what you got to do. Like always, would like to thank you guys for watching. Like we said, subscribe if you like this content and you'd like to see more. Like it, that always helps the channel. Share it with a friend and also comment down below. We like the banter. We like, friendly conversation. Even I guess we would call it friendly sports argument. We love it all. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.